Greetings. I don't think we've ever really been down this route before, me going on about vague possibilities rather than something I feel passionate about, or something I think an idiot would do. I think it's fair for me to talk about this subject, even if it's only with my hands and Microsoft Sam speaking things for me. I feel like that aspect is rather interesting, and, instead of sharing problems and solutions, I wanted to answer to myself, why was 2020 and 2021 so bad of years? The more I dug deep into my mind, the more I realized this wasn't just about those 2 years, but how people behave in general. Why does crime exist? Why does sensationalism exist? So, I pondered that question. You could say I studied, but I know I don't study for damn near anything, unless I physically have to in order to fill a void in my head. In this line of thought, I took into account common depictions of realistic villains seen all across all sorts of media. I also pulled from examples I witnessed myself, and from the news like some kind of test experiment. I even take into account every dislike my videos get. Just by interacting, I can imagine your thought process. I do it in the pursuit of knowledge, though it also fits well for when I think like this. When people are born, we carry a genetic sign of right and wrong, meaning that everything doesn't really start when they are infants. It usually never does. However, there are exceptions. A very rare amount of people are born either without the ability to naturally land safely, or the lack of right or wrong to exist, so, if a fall were to happen, it could change things drastically. Over time, you lose those abilities and end up with whatever your parents taught you. Most people struggle to even understand the idea of numbers or letters before they learn to speak, but others master writing before they even have an idea of how to speak. Some are cursed with not being able to do either, and geniuses can manage to do both. Now, I'm not sure when the awakening period is. In other words, the moment we are aware of ourselves. Some people get that really early, others far later. That awakening period is the cutoff day from where you'll be aware you existed, and from where you'll remember from there. I'd say this is around the time where significant changes in human behavior can occur, where you'll be a great kid from 5, but through a series of horrific events, you become a shell of your former self, only held together by that in which you fear, and that in which you trust. But what about those who lack empathy? It's simple. They'll find amusement in ways you couldn't possibly ever imagine, or want to imagine. I best not name it to you, but I'm sure you've heard the stories. Significant events that can drastically change a child include exceedingly harsh punishments, always moving from place to place for a parent's work, a divorce, domestic violence, rape, witnessing a murder, the death of a loved pet by someone. All these cause sorrow and resentment in the child, and they believe all of it is their fault. It's theirs. People also aren't born with prejudice towards anything either, so a racist or conservative household may have a hand in encouraging hating a certain group of people. They don't know how to process other people's mistakes, so, when it comes time to be a teenager, or even during being a teenager, all their sorrow either turns into rage, or leads to their death. A lot of those things are stuff parents can control. But, I'll explain how it's not their fault later. Well, unless they neglect taking care of their child or do something horrible. But what, if you happen to be lucky, nothing happened to you, or no unfortunate deaths occur within your childhood? Well, the teenage years can hit even harder than any truck you could possibly ever imagine. Because, if a parent dies or is murdered, it'll affect them even more mentally, as will everything else. In that sense of emotion, people will become sad, then afraid, then furious. Personally, it's hell to go through. Someone who's been abused their whole life won't even know what not being abused feels like, and that's the most unfortunate thing, because then they'll feel like they don't matter. Or they shift the blame to someone unrelated, and slowly become more manic and insane, to the point of hoarding money, or beginning to see people as mere things for their enjoyment. If given the slightest chance of righting everything they deem wrong with one button, it'll often end up destroying more things than they are even aware of. Like lives, self-esteem, the ability to trust, even ending the entire world or killing their own country in some cases. But of course, everyone handles things differently, and it all depends on how much positive influences you've had, your mental health, or just down to your personality. On top of that, money damns a lot of people, both to eternal suffering in this earth for the less fortunate, and an ever-growing flame for the rich. So, mixing all the resentment, the fear, the hate, and the desperate struggle for human survival, leads to rather sorrowful outcomes. Every racist is one person who's either completely broken inside, or incredibly stupid, but I like the former idea, because it implies something can be done about it with the right kind of therapy or friendships. It's a shame that America is so backwards, and had they cared a single damn, people wouldn't have to do such horrific things, all over privilege. And, yes, the generations before us got into these kind of emotional hellholes we do. I'd say COVID made it even worse, because, now some people have no escape. They are forced with their abusive family, and through that, the emotions are magnified. And through the process I mentioned before, they believe things more easily, whatever makes them feel comfortable. That's also how come sensationalism works so well, because everyone is hurting from something inside, and appealing to our fears is the best way to earn bank point. There was a time I was okay with it, but now, it's just nothing but fear-mongering for the sake of nothing more than clout, or to appease someone's hatred. I hate it when people can't realize that, and it's a bit sad to see, even among people in the autism boat along with me. We should be trying to promote positivity, but it's much more profitable to give into your fears and become an evil son of a bitch. So, what did I conclude? The same thing I said 2 videos ago. Don't go around harassing people, or talking shit, because you don't know how their life has been. Instead, talks about resolving those issues within the internet should be much more commonplace. To that guy who probably has the brain of a peanut and probably will dislike the video anyway, because I said something he didn't like, and, I don't know, probably go rant about it. He's going through some issues too, and, personally, I want him to realize that not everyone is out to get you. That and you probably should wear a COVID mask. Not only does it feel pretty good, but no microchips or anything. Yep, I tried it. You should really talk to this person, and maybe ask what's going on, why he's so afraid of change, and get through those times and become an amazing person. Seriously, take a hint from myself. I used to be really anti-trans people, but thanks to some of the best friends I had at Chill Place, I actually respect them. All they need is a good example. Except, if what you're talking about is a serial killer, a pedophile who's been to someone's house, or people who burn cats, then obviously eat the fun out of them. I'm how to Tomo 101, probably exploded your brain, signing out. Treat people the way you want to be treated, folks.